Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished loading the last container into his cargo bay. The heat on Helios 7 was unbearable, even for someone who had spent years traveling through space. He had been doing cargo runs for almost a decade now, moving supplies from one end of the galaxy to the other. It was not glamorous work, but it paid well enough and kept him away from the crowded cities near Earth. His ship, the Wanderer, sat on the landing pad like an old friend. The hull was scratched and dented from countless journeys, but the engines were strong and the life support systems worked perfectly. Jake trusted this ship more than he trusted most people. In the Outer Rim territories, a good ship could mean the difference between life and death. Jake walked up the ramp and sealed the cargo bay door behind him. The job had been simple enough. He delivered mining equipment to the colony and picked up processed ore to take back to the inner systems. Easy money. He was already thinking about his next destination when he heard a soft sound coming from behind the cargo containers. He froze. Jake had been flying alone for 3 years, ever since his co-pilot decided to retire. There should not be any sound in the cargo bay except for the hum of the ship's systems. He reached for the stunner on his belt and moved slowly toward the source of the noise. Behind a stack of containers, Jake found something he did not expect. A small figure huddled in the shadows, trembling. It was a child, but not a human child. The being had pale blue skin that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. Large eyes stared up at him with fear, and Jake could see thin arms wrapped around small knees. Jake lowered his weapon immediately. Whatever this child was, she was terrified and clearly in trouble. He knelt down slowly, trying not to scare her more than she already was. "Hey, it's okay," Jake said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." The child did not speak, but Jake felt something strange. It was like a wave of emotion washing over him. Fear, sadness, and loneliness hit him all at once. He had never felt anything like it before. The sensation was so strong that tears came to his eyes without warning. Jake took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. He had heard stories about empathic alien species, races that could share emotions with others. This child must be one of them. He sat down on the floor, keeping his distance so she would not feel threatened. "My name is Jake," he said. "Can you understand me?" The child nodded slowly. Her glow brightened just a little, and Jake felt the fear decrease slightly. She pointed to herself and made a soft sound that Jake could barely hear. It sounded like Kira. "Kira?" Jake repeated. "Is that your name?" The child nodded again. Jake noticed marks on her arms, like symbols or brands. They looked fresh and painful. His jaw tightened with anger. Someone had hurt this child, and from the looks of it, recently. Jake stood up slowly and went to get some water and a food bar from his supplies. When he came back, Kira was watching him carefully. He set the items down between them and backed away. Kira reached out cautiously and took the water. She drank it so fast that Jake realized she must have been hiding in his cargo bay for hours, maybe longer. While Kira ate, Jake tried to figure out what to do. He could not just leave a child alone on this mining colony, but taking her with him could cause serious problems. If someone was looking for her, and they probably were, Jake could be accused of kidnapping. The galactic authorities did not take kindly to humans who broke the law, especially out here in the frontier territories. Still, looking at Kira's frightened face and the marks on her arms, Jake knew he could not abandon her. His mother had always taught him to help those who could not help themselves. It had been one of the few lessons from his childhood that stuck with him through the years. Jake pulled out his data pad and started searching for information. It did not take long to find what he was looking for. Kira was Varani, a species from a planet called Varan Prime. The Varani were known for being peaceful and for their strong empathic abilities. They rarely left their homeworld and almost never traveled to places like Helios 7. The search results also showed something troubling. Varan Prime had been quarantined by the Covenant Assembly just 2 weeks ago. The official reason was a biological outbreak, but no details were provided. All communications with the planet had been cut off, and no ships were allowed in or out. Jake felt uneasy. The Covenant Assembly was the most powerful political organization in the galaxy. They claimed to maintain peace and order, but Jake had heard rumors about their darker activities. Many independent traders and frontier colonists did not trust them. He looked back at Kira, who had finished eating and was watching him with those large, luminous eyes. Through their empathic connection, Jake could feel her hope mixed with fear. She was hoping he would help her, but afraid he might turn her away. Jake made his decision. He would help this child, whatever it took. He stood up and extended his hand to Kira. She hesitated for a moment, then reached out and took it. Her small hand was warm, and Jake felt a surge of gratitude flow through their connection. "Come on, kid," Jake said. "Let's get you cleaned up and find somewhere safe for you to sleep. Then we need to figure out what happened to you and how to get you home." Kira stood up, still holding Jake's hand. She was small, barely reaching his waist. Jake led her out of the cargo bay and toward the living quarters. As they walked through the ship, Jake noticed Kira looking around with curiosity. Despite everything she had been through, there was still wonder in her eyes. Jake showed Kira to the small spare cabin. It was not much, just a bed and a storage locker, but it was clean and safe. Kira climbed onto the bed and curled up, her glow dimming as she relaxed for the first time. "Get some rest," Jake said. "We'll talk more when you wake up." Jake spent the next 3 days trying to learn more about Kira and her situation. The child was starting to trust him, and their communication was getting better. Kira could not speak much in human languages, but through her empathic abilities, she could share feelings and images. It was strange at first, but Jake was getting used to it. Through these shared visions, Jake learned that Kira had been taken from her home. She remembered armed soldiers coming to her family's dwelling. There had been confusion and screaming. Her father, who seemed to be an important person, had hidden her in a transport ship. That ship had eventually landed on Helios 7, and Kira had escaped when the cargo was being unloaded. Jake also learned that Kira's father was still alive, but in danger. Kira did not know exactly where he was, but she could feel his presence somewhere far away. The bond between Varani family members was strong, even across great distances. The more Jake learned, the more worried he became. This was not a simple case of a lost child. Someone had deliberately taken Kira from her home, and they had done the same to her people. The quarantine of Varen Prime was starting to make more sense, and none of it was good. Jake was checking the ship's systems when his communication console beeped. It was a message from the station they had just left. Helios 7 was broadcasting an alert. Jake's stomach sank as he read the words on the screen. Bounty hunters were on the station, asking questions about a missing Varani child. They were offering a substantial reward for information. The message also warned that harboring the child was considered a criminal offense against the Covenant Assembly. Anyone caught helping the child would face serious charges. Jake deleted the message and checked his ship's tracking systems. He had turned off the main beacon before leaving Helios 7, but there were other ways to track a ship. He needed to be careful. He also needed help, and he knew exactly who to call. Ben Carter answered the communication request within seconds. His weathered face appeared on the screen, and he smiled when he saw Jake. "Jake Morrison," Ben said. "It's been too long. What trouble have you gotten yourself into this time?" Jake had known Ben for 15 years. They had served together in the Earth Defense Force before both of them decided military life was not for them. Ben had saved Jake's life twice during those years, and Jake had returned the favor once. They were more than friends. They were brothers in every way that mattered. "I need your help, Ben," Jake said. "And I need you to not ask too many questions until I can explain everything in person." Ben's smile faded. He knew Jake well enough to recognize when something was serious. "Where are you?" "Heading toward the outer marker. Can you meet me at your outpost?" "I'll be there," Ben said. "Jake, are you in danger?" "Probably," Jake admitted. "But it's not just about me this time." Ben nodded. "I'll have a berth ready for you. Come in quiet and don't use the main approach vectors." The communication ended, and Jake set a course for Ben's outpost. It would take 4 days to get there, and Jake spent that time teaching Kira about the ship and trying to keep her spirits up. The child was smart and learned quickly. She was fascinated by the way human technology worked and spent hours watching Jake pilot the ship. On the 3rd day, Jake's sensors picked up another ship following them. It was keeping its distance, but it was definitely tracking the Wanderer. Jake changed course several times, but the other ship matched every move. They were being hunted. Jake increased speed and headed for a nearby asteroid field. It was dangerous, but he knew the Wanderer could handle it. The ship following them was bigger and less maneuverable. Jake hoped that would give him an advantage. The asteroid field was exactly as dangerous as Jake remembered. Massive rocks tumbled through space, and the Wanderer had to twist and turn to avoid them. Jake's hands moved across the controls with practiced ease, and the ship responded instantly. Behind them, the pursuing ship was having trouble keeping up. Jake guided the Wanderer through a narrow gap between two large asteroids and then killed the engines. The ship drifted in the shadow of the rocks, silent and dark. Jake held his breath and watched his sensors. The pursuing ship passed by less than a kilometer away, searching for them. After several tense minutes, the other ship gave up and left the asteroid field. Jake waited another hour before restarting the engines. His hands were shaking slightly from the adrenaline. Kira had stayed quiet during the whole chase, but Jake could feel her fear through their connection. He reached over and squeezed her hand gently. "We're safe now," he said. "We'll be at Ben's outpost tomorrow." But Jake knew they were not really safe. If one ship had found them, others would follow. The Covenant Assembly had resources that Jake could not match. He was just one man with an old cargo ship, and they were the most powerful organization in the galaxy. When they finally reached Ben's outpost, Jake felt some relief. The outpost was built into a large asteroid and was hidden from most sensors. Ben had chosen this location specifically because it was off the main trade routes and easy to defend. Ben was waiting for them at the docking bay. His eyes widened when he saw Kira step off the ship behind Jake. The child's blue skin was glowing softly in the dim light of the bay. "Jake, what have you done?" Ben asked quietly. "I helped a kid who needed help," Jake replied. "And now I need your help too." They moved to Ben's private quarters, where Jake explained everything. He told Ben about finding Kira, the quarantine of Varen Prime, and the bounty hunters on Helios 7. He also mentioned the ship that had followed them and the growing feeling that this was much bigger than a simple rescue. Ben listened without interrupting. When Jake finished, Ben was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "The Covenant doesn't issue galaxy-wide alerts for missing children," Ben said. "Especially not children from quarantined planets. This girl must be important." Jake nodded. "I've been thinking the same thing. But I don't know why they want her so badly." Ben pulled up his data console and started searching. He had access to some databases that Jake could not reach, remnants from his time in the military. After several minutes, Ben's face went pale. "Jake, do you know who this child is?" "Her name is Kira. That's all I know." "She's not just any Varani," Ben said, turning the console so Jake could see. "She's the daughter of the High Elder of Varen Prime. That's like being the child of a king or president. And according to this, she has abilities that are rare even among her people." Jake looked at the information on the screen. It mentioned that Kira could sense the true intentions of any being near her. She could tell if someone was lying or if they meant harm. For a child, this ability was weak, but as she grew older, it would become incredibly powerful. "That's why they want her," Jake said slowly. "An ability like that would be dangerous to people who deal in secrets and lies." "The Covenant Assembly runs on secrets and lies," Ben added. "If they've quarantined her planet and taken her people, it means they're planning something big, and they can't let someone who can sense deception run free." Jake felt cold. He had thought he was just protecting a lost child. But now he realized he was caught in something much larger. The Covenant Assembly was not just looking for Kira. They were trying to silence an entire species that could expose their corruption. "What do I do?" Jake asked. Ben looked at him seriously. "You have two choices. You can turn Kira over to the Covenant and hope they're merciful. Or you can run and keep running until you find a way to stop them." The journey to the Kelvin sector took 8 days. Jake had to avoid all major trade routes and use smuggling paths that he had learned about over the years. The Covenant had placed a massive bounty on his head, and every mercenary and hunter in the galaxy seemed to be looking for him. Ben had decided to come along. He said his outpost was getting boring anyway, and Jake could use an extra pair of hands. Jake was grateful. Having Ben around made him feel less alone in this impossible situation. Kira was adjusting to life on the ship. She still got scared sometimes, especially when sensors picked up other vessels nearby. But she was also showing her strength. The child had survived being taken from her home, hidden on a transport ship, and escaped on a strange planet. She was tougher than she looked. During the journey, Kira started sharing more memories with Jake. She showed him images of Viren Prime, a beautiful world covered in luminescent forests that glowed at night. She shared memories of her family, her father teaching her how to use her empathic abilities, her mother singing songs in the Varani language. Jake felt the love and warmth of those memories, and it made him more determined to help her. Kira also showed Jake something disturbing. She shared a vision of armed soldiers coming to her world. They wore the insignia of the Covenant Assembly. They had gathered her people and forced them onto large transport ships. Anyone who resisted was stunned with weapons. Her father had hidden her at the last moment, telling her to be brave and to trust that someone good would find her. Jake realized that Kira's father had used his empathic abilities to sense Jake's character even from a distance. The High Elder had known that whoever found Kira would be faced with a choice, and he had gambled that person would choose to help her. It was an incredible display of faith in the goodness of strangers. When they finally reached Frontier Station, Jake and Ben put on disguises. Simple changes like different clothes, fake identification, and dirt on their faces could make a big difference. Kira stayed on the ship, hidden in a secret compartment that Ben had helped Jake build. The station was crowded and noisy. Traders, miners, and travelers from dozens of species moved through the corridors. Wanted posters with Jake's face were displayed on several walls. The reward had gone up again. Jake kept his head down and followed Ben through the crowds. Ben had a contact on the station, an information broker named Sam, who owed him a favor. They found Sam in a dark corner of the station's main bar. Sam was a thin human with nervous eyes who made his living selling information to anyone who could pay. "Ben Carter," Sam said, looking around nervously. "You're keeping dangerous company these days." "I need to find Lisa Hayes," Ben said directly. "I know she was here." Sam shook his head. "That information is expensive. The Covenant is watching everyone who asks about her." Ben placed a credit chip on the table. "This should cover it." Sam looked at the chip and then at Ben. "She's in the lower levels, Section 12, but she's not alone. There are others with her. People who left the Covenant because they could not stomach what they saw. They're planning something, but I don't know what." Jake and Ben found Section 12 after an hour of searching. It was a forgotten part of the station, where the life support barely worked and the lights flickered constantly. They knocked on a heavy door marked with a faded number. The door opened, and a woman with sharp eyes and military bearing stood before them. She had a weapon pointed at Jake's chest. "Give me one reason not to shoot you," Lisa Hayes said calmly. "Because we're here to help," Jake replied, "and because you know what the Covenant is doing to the Varani is wrong." Lisa studied them for a long moment, then lowered her weapon. "Come in, quickly." Inside, Jake and Ben found a group of about 20 people. Most were former Covenant soldiers or officials. They all had the same look in their eyes, a mixture of guilt and determination. Lisa closed the door and turned to face them. "I know who you are, Jake Morrison. You're the human who took the Varani child from Helios 7. The Covenant has every enforcer in the galaxy looking for you." "Then you know why I'm here," Jake said. "I need to know what the Covenant is planning. I need to know how to save Kira's people." Lisa was quiet for a moment. Then she gestured for them to sit. "I was part of the operation on Viren Prime. I was there when we rounded up the Varani and took them to the facility. I followed my orders because I believed the Covenant was keeping the galaxy safe. But what I saw at that facility changed everything." She pulled up a holographic display. It showed images of Varani people in cells hooked up to machines. Jake felt sick looking at it. "The Covenant is conditioning them," Lisa explained. "They're using technology to suppress the Varani's ability to sense deception while enhancing their empathic powers. Once the process is complete, the Varani will be able to influence emotions and thoughts, but they won't be able to detect lies. The Covenant plans to use them as living weapons for political manipulation. Jake felt rage building inside him. They're turning peaceful people into tools. Worse than that, Lisa continued. Once they perfect the process on the Varani, they plan to use it on other empathic species. The Covenant wants absolute control over the galaxy, and they're willing to destroy anyone who stands in their way. Ben spoke up. Why did they specifically want Kira? Because Kira is special, even among her people, Lisa said. Her ability to sense true intentions is incredibly strong. As she grows older, she'll become the most powerful Varani ever recorded. The Covenant wants to either control her or eliminate her. They can't risk someone with her abilities exposing their corruption. Jake stood up and began pacing. Where are they keeping the Varani prisoners? In a hidden facility in the Dark Reach Nebula, Lisa answered. It's heavily guarded and almost impossible to reach. I've been trying to figure out a way to expose what's happening, but the Covenant controls most of the major communication networks. Any message I send gets blocked before it reaches the public. What if we didn't send a message? Jake said slowly. What if we showed them? What if we rescued the Varani and brought proof of what the Covenant is doing? Everyone in the room turned to look at him. Lisa shook her head. That's suicide. The facility has hundreds of guards and the latest defensive systems. We don't have the ships or the weapons to mount an assault. Then we don't assault it, Ben suggested. We infiltrate it. Get in quiet, free the prisoners, and get out before they know what happened. Lisa looked at Ben like he was crazy. That's still impossible. The facility has empathic sensors that detect emotional signatures. Any normal person would be caught immediately. Jake smiled. But what if we had someone with us who could mask those signatures? Someone whose empathic abilities are strong enough to hide us from the sensors? Understanding dawned on Lisa's face. Kira, you want to bring the child into the most dangerous place in the galaxy? I want to give her people a chance at freedom, Jake corrected. And I think Kira is strong enough to help. She's already proven she's braver than most adults I know. The room erupted in arguments. Some people thought Jake was insane. Others thought he might be onto something. Lisa remained quiet, thinking through the possibilities. Finally, Lisa raised her hand for silence. Even if we could infiltrate the facility, we'd need help getting there. The Dark Reach Nebula is weeks away, and the Covenant has patrols throughout that sector. I might be able to help with that, a new voice said. Everyone turned to see a man standing in the doorway. He was tall with sun-weathered skin and the confident bearing of a ship captain. Behind him stood several other people, all of them armed. My name is Ryan Mitchell, the man said. I'm captain of the free trader vessel Phoenix Rising. We've been listening to your conversation and we want to help. Lisa moved her hand toward her weapon. How did you get in here? Your security is not as good as you think, Ryan said with a slight smile. But we're not here to cause trouble. We're here because we've seen what the Covenant does to independent traders and frontier colonies. They take our freedom in the name of order. They silence anyone who questions them. If you're planning to strike back, we want to be part of it. Jake studied Ryan carefully. Through his connection with Kira back on the ship, he could sense the man's emotions. Ryan was telling the truth. He genuinely wanted to help. How many ships do you have? Jake asked. 5 vessels in my fleet, Ryan answered. All of them fast and well-armed. We know smuggling routes through the nebula that the Covenant doesn't monitor. We can get you there. Ben looked at Jake. This is really happening, isn't it? We're actually going to try this. Jake nodded. Kira's father believed someone would help her. He had faith that good people still exist in this galaxy. I'm not going to let him down. I'm not going to let any of them down. Lisa stood up and extended her hand to Jake. Then we're with you, all of us. We'll help you free the Varani and expose what the Covenant has done, even if it costs us everything. Jake shook her hand, feeling the weight of what they were about to attempt. They were a small group of rebels going up against the most powerful organization in the galaxy. The odds were against them. Most likely, they would fail and die. The next 2 weeks were filled with planning and preparation. Jake's small group of rebels had grown into a proper resistance movement. Ryan's fleet provided the ships they needed, while Lisa's knowledge of Covenant procedures gave them valuable intelligence. More people joined them every day. former soldiers and civilians who were tired of living under the Covenant's control. Jake spent most of his time with Kira, helping her understand what they were about to do. The child was scared but determined. She wanted to save her father and her people. Through their empathic connection, Jake could feel her resolve growing stronger each day. Kira's abilities were also growing. She could now extend her empathic sense over greater distances and could even hide the emotional signatures of people near her. Lisa theorized that Kira's powers were developing faster because of the stress and danger she had experienced. The child was adapting to survive. Ben worked with Ryan's crew to modify their ships. They added extra shields and weapons, but also stealth systems that would help them slip through the Covenant patrols. It was delicate work, and Ben barely slept during those 2 weeks. Jake also met Amy Chen, a brilliant hacker who had joined Lisa's group. Amy had worked for the Covenant's information division before she discovered they were using her skills to spy on innocent civilians. She was young, barely 20 years old, but her talent with computer systems was extraordinary. "I can get us past most of their digital security," Amy explained to Jake, "but once we're inside the facility, we'll need physical access to their mainframe to transmit the evidence. The Covenant keeps their worst secrets on isolated systems that can't be hacked remotely." Finally, the day came to leave. Jake stood on the bridge of the Wanderer, looking at the small fleet that had assembled. 6 ships in total, filled with people willing to risk everything for a chance at justice. It was not much compared to the Covenant's military might, but it was more than Jake had ever expected. Ryan's voice came over the communication system. "All ships ready, Jake. Just give the word." Jake looked at Kira, who stood beside him on the bridge. The child nodded, her skin glowing with determination. "Let's go bring your family home," Jake said. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, following Ryan's secret routes through the Dark-Reach Nebula. The journey took 5 days, and every moment was tense. They passed close to several Covenant patrol ships, but their stealth systems held. Nobody detected them. When they finally reached the facility, Jake felt his breath catch. It was enormous, a massive structure floating in the darkness of the nebula. Hundreds of ships surrounded it, and weapon platforms bristled from every surface. It looked like a fortress because that's exactly what it was. "That's impossible to assault," Ben said quietly. "Good thing we're not assaulting it," Jake replied. "Amy, are you ready?" Amy's voice came through the communication system. She was on Ryan's ship, surrounded by computer equipment. "Ready when you are. I've identified a maintenance entrance on the lower level. It's less guarded than the main docks." "Lisa, what about the patrols?" "I've been monitoring their patterns," Lisa answered, from her position on another ship. "They change guard shifts every 6 hours. In about 20 minutes, there will be a 5-minute window when that entrance is less monitored." Jake checked his equipment one more time. He would be leading the infiltration team personally, along with Ben, Amy, and Kira. 4 other people from Lisa's group would come with them. It was a small team, but that was the point. The fewer people they had, the easier it would be for Kira to hide their presence. The 20 minutes passed like hours. Jake held Kira's hand, feeling her nervousness through their connection. He sent back feelings of confidence and protection, trying to reassure her. "Window opening in 30 seconds, Lisa announced. Jake's team climbed into a small shuttle. Ryan piloted it away from the main fleet, using the nebula's natural interference to hide their approach. The shuttle was modified to look like a Covenant maintenance vessel, and Ryan had fake authorization codes that Amy had created. They docked at the maintenance entrance without any alarms going off. Jake led his team into the facility, moving quickly through dimly lit corridors. Kira walked in the center of the group, her empathic abilities stretched out like an invisible shield. The facility's sensors passed over them, but detected nothing unusual. The interior of the facility was cold and sterile. They passed by several Covenant soldiers, but none of them paid attention to the maintenance crew moving through the halls. Amy consulted her data pad, guiding them toward the detention area where the Varani were held. They had been inside for 30 minutes when they encountered their first real obstacle. A checkpoint with armed guards blocked the corridor ahead. There was no way around it. "We need a distraction," Ben whispered. Jake thought quickly. Amy, can you trigger a false alarm somewhere else in the facility? Give me a minute, Amy said, her fingers flying across her datapad. There. Fire alarm in the North Wing, Section 7. Alarms began blaring throughout the facility. The guards at the checkpoint looked confused, and one of them spoke into his communication device. After a moment, 3 of the 5 guards ran off toward the alarm, leaving only 2 behind. Better odds, Ben muttered. He and Jake moved forward quickly. Before the remaining guards could react, they were stunned and unconscious. The team dragged them into a side room and continued forward. They finally reached the detention area. Rows of cells stretched out before them, and in each cell was a Varani prisoner. The sight made Jake's blood run cold. The Varani were hooked up to machines, their once bright skin now dull and lifeless. Many of them appeared unconscious. Kira made a small sound of distress. Jake felt her anguish through their connection. These were her people, and seeing them like this was breaking her heart. Amy, can you open the cells? Jake asked. Amy plugged her datapad into the security console. Working on it. Their encryption is tougher than I expected. Give me 2 minutes. Those 2 minutes felt like forever. Jake kept watch on the corridor while Ben checked on the Varani prisoners. Many of them were weak and would need help walking. This was going to be more complicated than they had planned. Got it, Amy said. The cell doors hissed open. Kira ran to the nearest cell, where an older Varani male lay connected to machines. It was her father, the High Elder. Kira's skin flared with bright light as she touched him, and Jake felt an overwhelming surge of emotion through their connection. Relief, love, grief, and hope all mixed together. The High Elder's eyes opened slowly. He looked at Kira with surprise and joy. Then his gaze moved to Jake, and Jake felt the weight of that look. The High Elder was studying him, reading his emotions and intentions with abilities far stronger than Kira's. After a moment, the High Elder nodded slowly. Jake did not need words to understand the message. The High Elder was thanking him for protecting his daughter and for coming to save his people. We need to move, Lisa's voice crackled through Jake's earpiece. Covenant reinforcements are responding to the fire alarm. They'll discover it's fake soon. Ben and the other team members began helping the Varani prisoners out of their cells and disconnecting them from the machines. Many of the Varani were too weak to walk, so they had to be carried. This was going to slow them down significantly. Amy, did you find the mainframe? Jake asked. It's 3 levels up, Amy replied. But Jake, I can't transmit the evidence from here. The Covenant has jammers blocking all outgoing signals. We need to disable the jammers first. Jake swore under his breath. Nothing was ever simple. Where are the jammers? Central control room. Same level as the mainframe. Ben, get these people back to the shuttle, Jake ordered. I'm going with Amy to the control room. Jake, that's suicide, Ben protested. The control room will be heavily guarded. Then I better move fast, Jake said. He looked at Kira's father. Can you help them? Can you use your abilities to hide them like Kira did for us? The High Elder was weak, but he nodded. His skin began to glow faintly, and Jake felt the empathic energy spreading out from him. It was much stronger than Kira's, even in his weakened state. Go, the High Elder said in a raspy voice. We will manage. Save all our people, not just those in this room. Jake understood. There were more Varani in other parts of the facility. If they could transmit the evidence and expose the Covenant's crimes, it might force the organization to release all the prisoners. It was a risk, but it was their best chance. Jake and Amy ran through the corridors, moving as fast as they could. Alarms were still blaring, and they could hear soldiers shouting orders in the distance. Time was running out. They reached the control room to find it guarded by 10 soldiers. There was no way to sneak past them. Plan? Amy asked. I'll distract them. You run in and do what you need to do, Jake said. Before Amy could argue, Jake stepped out into the open. Hey, looking for me? The soldiers turned, weapons raised. Jake recognized the look of recognition on their faces. They knew who he was. The bounty on his head was too large to forget. Jake ran, leading the soldiers away from the control room. He could hear them chasing him, shouting for backup. He ducked into a side corridor and kept running, his heart pounding. He just needed to buy Amy enough time. He turned a corner and found himself face to face with a tall figure in black armor. The figure moved with mechanical precision, and Jake realized he was looking at Commander Vareth, the Covenant's most feared enforcer. "Jake Morrison," Vareth said in a cold voice, "your rebellion ends here." Jake reached for his weapon, but Vareth was faster. A powerful blow sent Jake flying backward. He hit the wall hard and felt pain explode through his body. Vareth advanced slowly, like a predator approaching wounded prey. "You have caused significant disruption to Covenant operations," Vareth stated. "This cannot be tolerated." Jake struggled to his feet. He was outmatched, and he knew it. But he had to keep fighting. He had to give Amy enough time to complete the mission. "The Covenant is enslaving innocent people," Jake said. "Someone has to stop you." "Order requires sacrifice," Vareth replied. "You cannot understand." Jake and Kira ran through the facility's corridors as alarms screamed around them. Behind them, they could hear soldiers mobilizing, but the chaos worked in their favor. Nobody knew exactly what was happening or where to focus their efforts. Amy met them at a junction point, her face flushed with excitement and fear. The transmission went out. Every major news network in the galaxy just received proof of what the Covenant has been doing. There's no way they can cover this up. "Then let's get out of here before they decide to blow up the whole facility," Jake said. They ran toward the docking area, where the shuttle was waiting. Ben's voice crackled through the communication system. "Jake, we've got all the prisoners from the detention area on the shuttle, but we're at maximum capacity. It's going to be tight." "We'll make it work," Jake replied. They reached the shuttle to find it packed with freed Varani prisoners. The High Elder sat near the front, his daughter Kira already moving to his side. Despite his weakness, the Elder's presence seemed to calm the other prisoners. His skin glowed softly, and Jake could feel waves of reassurance flowing from him. Ben was in the pilot's seat. "Strap in, this is going to be rough." The shuttle launched from the facility just as Covenant ships began responding to the emergency. Weapons fire lit up the darkness of the nebula, but Ryan's fleet was there to provide cover. The Phoenix Rising and the other ships engaged the Covenant forces, buying time for the shuttle to escape. Jake watched through the viewport as the battle unfolded. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Ryan's crew was skilled, but they were outnumbered. Jake felt guilt wash over him. These people were risking their lives because of his decision to fight back. "Don't," the High Elder said softly. Jake turned to find the Varani leader watching him. "Do not blame yourself for others choosing to do what is right. They fight because they believe in justice, just as you do." The High Elder's voice was weak but clear. Jake realized the old Varani was reading his emotions and responding to them. "Will we make it?" Jake asked. "That choice belongs to forces greater than us," the High Elder replied. "But I believe we will. The galaxy needed someone to stand up to the Covenant. You became that person, even though you did not seek it." The shuttle shook as a nearby explosion sent shockwaves through space. Ben cursed and adjusted their course, pushing the engines to their limit. They were almost clear of the facility's weapon range. Lisa's voice came through the communication system. "Jake, the transmission worked. It's spreading across the galaxy faster than the Covenant can contain it. News networks are broadcasting the footage. People are seeing the truth." "What about the facility?" Jake asked. "The Covenant is evacuating it. They know they can't hide what's there anymore. They're releasing the prisoners." Jake felt hope surge through him. They had actually done it. They had exposed the Covenant's crimes and freed the Varani people. It seemed impossible, but it was happening. The shuttle finally cleared the weapon range and entered open space. Behind them, the Covenant ships were pulling back, focusing on defensive positions rather than pursuit. They were trying to control the damage rather than silence the witnesses. Ryan's fleet regrouped around the shuttle. They had lost one ship in the battle, and Jake's heart ached for the crew members who had sacrificed themselves. But the rest had survived, and they had accomplished their mission. "Setting course for Varen Prime," Ben announced. "Time to take these people home." The journey to Varen Prime took 6 days. During that time, the galaxy exploded with news about the Covenant's crimes. The evidence Amy had transmitted was irrefutable. Video footage, documents, and testimony from Lisa and other defectors painted a clear picture of corruption and abuse of power. Member species of the Covenant Assembly began demanding investigations. Several high-ranking officials were arrested. The organization that had controlled galactic politics for decades was crumbling under the weight of its own lies. Jake spent most of the journey talking with the High Elder. The Varani leader's name was Elder Soren, and he had led his people for 40 years. Despite everything he had endured, Soren remained calm and wise. "Your species is young compared to many in the galaxy," Soren told Jake during one of their conversations. "But humans have a quality that others lack. You refuse to accept injustice even when fighting it seems impossible. That stubbornness may be humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Or our greatest curse," Jake said. "We don't always know when to quit." Soren smiled, his skin glowing warmly. Sometimes not quitting is exactly what the universe needs. When they finally reached Varen Prime, Jake was amazed by what he saw. The planet was even more beautiful than Kira's memories had shown. Luminescent forests covered the continents, and cities built from living crystal dotted the landscape. It looked like something from a dream. The Covenant quarantine was officially lifted. Ships carrying freed Varani prisoners were arriving from all across the galaxy. The facility in the Dark Reach Nebula had been forced to release everyone, and transport ships were bringing them home. The shuttle landed in the capital city, where thousands of Varani had gathered to welcome their people home. Jake watched as families reunited, their skin glowing with joy and relief. The empathic resonance of so much happiness was overwhelming, and Jake found tears streaming down his face. Kira took his hand and squeezed it gently. Through their connection, Jake felt her gratitude and love. She would never forget what he had done for her and her people. A ceremony was held in Jake's honor. The Varani High Council, now freed and restored, gathered to thank him personally. Elder Saran stood before the assembled crowd and spoke in the Varani language. Kira translated for Jake. "This human came to us as a stranger," Soren said. "He had no reason to help us. He had everything to lose by standing against the Covenant. But he chose to protect a frightened child. And that choice changed the fate of our entire people. We name him Guardian of the Lost, and we grant him the status of Honorary Varani. He is family to us, now and forever." The crowd's skin flared with light, and Jake felt the emotional weight of their acceptance wash over him. He had never felt so honored in his life. Ben stood beside Jake, grinning. "Not bad for a cargo hauler." "I couldn't have done it without you," Jake replied. "Any of you." Ryan and his crew were also honored. The Varani offered them supplies, ships, and a permanent place of safety if they ever needed it. The free traders accepted gratefully. They had made powerful enemies in the Covenant, but they had also gained powerful friends. Lisa and Amy received similar honors. Lisa was offered a position helping to reform what remained of the Covenant Assembly. She accepted, determined to ensure that the organization would never again abuse its power. Amy decided to stay on Varen Prime for a while, helping the Varani upgrade their technology and security systems. After the ceremony, Jake and Kira walked through the luminescent forest together. The child was home and safe, but Jake knew their bond would remain. They would always be connected through their empathic link. "What will you do now?" Kira asked him. Jake looked up at the stars visible through the glowing canopy. "I don't know. The Covenant still has sympathizers who want revenge. I'll never be able to go back to a normal life." "You were never meant for a normal life," Kira said wisely. "You were meant to help people. There are others out there who need a guardian." Jake smiled. She was right, of course. His journey had changed him. He could not go back to simply hauling cargo and ignoring the problems around him. He had seen what one person could do when they chose to stand up for what was right. "Will you come visit?" Jake asked Kira. "Always," she promised. "You are family now." They stood together in the forest, human and alien, guardian and child, watching the stars together. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but Jake no longer felt alone. He had found his purpose, and he had found people worth fighting for. Elder Soren approached them quietly. "Jake Morrison, I must tell you something," When the Covenant took us, I hid information that proves their corruption goes even deeper than what you exposed. I embedded it in Kira's memories, knowing that if anyone saved her, they would be trustworthy enough to help us further. Jake turned to look at him. What kind of information? Genetic research showing the Covenant has been manipulating multiple species for centuries through biological agents. They have been guiding galactic evolution itself, playing God with entire civilizations. Jake felt the weight of this revelation. That information could destroy what's left of the Covenant entirely. Yes, Soren agreed, but it could also start wars. Species discovering they were manipulated may seek revenge. This knowledge is dangerous. What do you want me to do with it? Jake asked. I want you to decide, Soren said. You have proven your judgment. You will know when and how to use this information or whether it should remain secret. I trust you. Jake looked at Kira, who nodded encouragingly. He thought about all the people who had helped him, all the sacrifices that had been made. He thought about the future of the galaxy and what kind of place he wanted 3 months past after the liberation of Varen Prime. The galaxy was still adjusting to the revelations about the Covenant Assembly. Political structures that had stood for centuries were collapsing and reforming. Some species were gaining independence for the first time in generations. Others were struggling with the chaos that came from sudden freedom. Jake remained on Varen Prime during this time, helping Elder Soren and his people rebuild their society. The Virani were resilient, and their world was healing quickly. But Jake knew he could not stay forever. He had other responsibilities calling to him. The Wanderer had been repaired and upgraded with Virani technology. The ship was now faster and better equipped than ever before. Ben had supervised the work personally, making sure everything was perfect. He planned to return to his outpost soon, but he wanted to see Jake safely on his way first. One morning, Jake received a message that changed everything. It was from a small colony on the edge of known space, a place called Haven's Rest. The message was desperate. A group of refugees from the Toral species were being hunted by mercenaries hired by Covenant sympathizers. The refugees had witnessed crimes committed by Covenant officials, and now their lives were in danger. Jake showed the message to Ben and Elder Soren. They both knew what it meant. This was the kind of situation Jake had been born to handle. You have to go, Soren said simply. These people need a guardian. I was planning to rest for a while, Jake admitted. Maybe try to find some peace. Soren placed a hand on Jake's shoulder. His empathic abilities let him sense Jake's true feelings. Peace is not found in rest for people like you. Peace comes from knowing you are doing what you were meant to do. Your purpose is to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Jake knew the Elder was right. He had tried to live a quiet life before meeting Kira, and he had been miserable. This new path, dangerous as it was, felt more right than anything he had ever done. Ben agreed to come along. Someone needs to keep you alive, he said with a grin. Besides, my outpost will still be there when I get back. Amy decided to join them as well. She had grown restless on Varen Prime. Her skills as a hacker would be valuable, and she wanted to be part of something meaningful. Ryan and his fleet were busy helping transport refugees from other parts of the galaxy, but he promised to meet up with Jake when he could. Lisa sent a message from the Reformed Covenant Assembly headquarters. She was working to root out corruption and rebuild the organization into something better. She could not leave her post, but she provided Jake with information networks and contacts that would help him in his mission. The hardest goodbye was with Kira. The young Virani had grown stronger and more confident. She was training to become a guardian of her own people, using her abilities to protect and guide them. But saying goodbye to Jake was difficult for both of them. They stood together in the luminescent forest one last time. Kira's skin glowed softly in the twilight, and Jake felt the depth of their connection. It would never truly break, no matter how far apart they were. I will miss you, Kira said, her voice steady despite the sadness Jake could feel through their bond. I'll miss you too, kid, Jake replied. But this isn't goodbye forever. I'll come visit when I can, and you can always reach me through our connection. I know, Kira said. But it still hurts. Jake knelt down so he was at eye level with her. That pain means we care about each other. It means our friendship is real. And real friendships last forever, no matter the distance. Kira hugged him tightly, and Jake held her close. He thought about the frightened child he had found hiding in his cargo bay months ago. She had grown so much, become so strong. He was proud of her. Elder Soren approached them, his skin glowing with a warm light. "Jake Morrison, before you leave, I must give you something." He handed Jake a small crystal that pulsed with gentle light. "This is a Varani communication crystal. As long as you carry it, you will be able to sense Kira's presence across any distance. It will also let other Varani know that you are a friend to our people." Jake accepted the crystal gratefully. It was warm in his hand and seemed to resonate with his heartbeat. "Thank you, Elder, for everything." "No," Soren said firmly. "Thank you. You saved us when we had given up hope. You showed us that there are still good people in the galaxy. That is a gift beyond measure." The next morning, Jake, Ben, and Amy boarded the Wanderer. A crowd of Varani had gathered to see them off. As the ship lifted into the sky, Jake looked down at the glowing forests and crystal cities below. Varen Prime had become a second home to him, and he knew a part of his heart would always remain there. The journey to Haven's Rest took 5 days. During the trip, Amy worked on gathering information about the situation. The Toral refugees were hiding in an abandoned mining facility on the colony. Mercenaries were searching for them, and local authorities were either unwilling or unable to help. "Why aren't the authorities helping?" Jake asked. "Fear," Amy replied. "The mercenaries are backed by powerful interests. Officials who try to interfere have a way of disappearing or losing their jobs. It's easier to look the other way." Jake felt familiar anger building inside him. This was exactly the kind of corruption that the Covenant had spread throughout the galaxy. Even with the organization weakened, its poison remained. When they reached Haven's Rest, Jake found a world struggling to survive. The colony was poor and isolated, dependent on mining for its economy. Most of the residents were honest people trying to make a living, but they were caught between the refugees and the mercenaries hunting them. Jake, Ben, and Amy landed the Wanderer at a remote location away from the main settlement. They would need to approach the situation carefully. Going in with weapons blazing would only get people killed. Jake made contact with the refugee leader, a Toral named Dren. The Toral were a reptilian species known for their excellent memory and attention to detail. Dren and his people had been working as clerks and record keepers for a Covenant facility when they discovered evidence of financial crimes. They had copied the files and tried to escape, but the Covenant officials had sent mercenaries after them. "We just want to be safe," Dren told Jake over a secure communication channel. "We want to release the evidence so everyone can see what happened, but we don't want to die doing it." "How many people are with you?" Jake asked. 12 adults and 5 children. Jake felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. 17 lives depending on him to make the right choices. It was a feeling he was getting used to. Ben came up with a plan. They would create a distraction to draw the mercenaries away from the refugees' hiding place. While the mercenaries were occupied, Amy would help the refugees transmit their evidence to news networks across the galaxy. Once the information was public, the mercenaries would have no reason to continue hunting them. It was risky, but it was their best option. Jake prepared himself for another fight, another desperate gamble to protect innocent people. The operation began at dawn. Ben piloted the Wanderer in a series of aggressive maneuvers near the mercenary base, making sure their sensors picked up the ship. The mercenaries took the bait and launched pursuit ships. Ben led them on a chase through the colony's asteroid field, using every trick he knew to keep them busy. Meanwhile, Jake went to the refugee hideout with Amy. The abandoned mining facility was dark and cold. The Toral refugees looked exhausted and frightened. The children clung to their parents, and Jake could see the fear in their eyes. "We're going to get you out of here," Jake told them. "But we need to transmit your evidence first. Amy?" Amy set up her equipment and began uploading the files to multiple news networks simultaneously. The Toral had documented everything: false reports, stolen funds, bribes to officials. It was the same pattern of corruption that the Covenant had used everywhere. "Upload complete," Amy announced after 10 tense minutes. "The information is spreading." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Jake's blood ran cold. The mercenaries had not all chased Ben. Some had stayed behind and found them. "Get everyone to the ship," Jake ordered. He pulled his weapon and positioned himself to cover their escape. The refugees ran toward the Wanderer, which Ben had managed to bring back to their location. Mercenaries poured into the facility, weapons firing. Jake returned fire, using the mining equipment as cover. A mercenary got close, and Jake fought him hand to hand. He was not as skilled as Commander Vareth, but Jake had learned from that encounter. He fought smarter, using the environment to his advantage. Ben appeared beside him, weapon blazing. Together they held the line long enough for all the refugees to reach the ship. Then they ran, sprinting across the open ground while weapons fire kicked up dust around them. They made it to the Wanderer, and Ben launched the ship immediately. Mercenary ships pursued them, but Ben was a better pilot. He guided the Wanderer through impossible maneuvers, and soon they were clear of the colony's gravity well. "Everyone safe?" Jake asked, breathing hard. Amy did a quick count. All 17 refugees accounted for. No serious injuries. Jake felt relief wash over him. They had done it again. Another group of innocent people saved, another piece of corruption exposed. Over the next few days, Jake helped the Toral refugees find a safe place to resettle. The evidence they had released caused another scandal, leading to more arrests of former Covenant officials. The galaxy was slowly cleaning house, and Jake was proud to be part of that process. But he knew this was just the beginning. There would be more people who needed help, more battles to fight. The galaxy was a big place, and corruption had deep roots. Jake stood on the bridge of the Wanderer, looking at the stars ahead. Ben was beside him, checking their navigation systems. Amy was in the back, already researching their next destination. They had become a team, a small group dedicated to helping those who had nowhere else to turn. The communication crystal from Elder Soren pulsed gently in Jake's pocket. He could feel Kira's presence through it, warm and bright despite the distance between them. She was safe and happy, and that knowledge gave Jake strength. A new message appeared on the console, another call for help, this time from a mining station in the Kepler sector. Jake read it and felt the familiar pull of responsibility. "What do you think?" Ben asked. Jake smiled. "I think someone needs help." "Are you going to do this forever?" Ben asked. "Just travel around the galaxy helping people?" "Maybe," Jake said. "Or maybe I'm doing this until enough other people start helping too. Until the galaxy learns that standing up for what's right is always worth it." "That could take a lifetime," Amy pointed out. "Then I guess I better get started," Jake replied. He set a course for the Kepler sector, and the Wanderer jumped to hyperspace. Behind them, the stars streaked into lines of light. Ahead of them lay uncertainty, danger, and the chance to make a difference. Jake thought about his journey, from the moment he found a scared alien child in his cargo bay to now. He had gone from being a lonely cargo hauler to becoming the guardian of the lost. He had faced down the most powerful organization in the galaxy and won. But more importantly, he had learned something about himself and about humanity. People said humans were stubborn, reckless, and too quick to fight. Maybe that was true. But humans were also brave, compassionate, and unwilling to abandon those in need. The galaxy needed that. The galaxy needed people who would stand up when everyone else looked away. The galaxy needed guardians, and Jake Morrison, simple cargo hauler turned hero, was ready to answer that call for as long as he was needed. The Wanderer raced through hyperspace toward its next destination, carrying 3 people who had decided that making a difference was more important than playing it safe. They did not know what challenges waited for them. They did not know if they would succeed. But they knew they had to try, because that was what humans did. They tried, even when the odds were impossible. They fought, even when the battle seemed lost. They protected, even when it cost them everything. And sometimes, just sometimes, one human standing up could change the entire galaxy. Jake touched the crystal in his pocket one more time, feeling Kira's presence across the stars. He smiled, thinking about the frightened child who had trusted him with her life. She was safe now, but there were others who needed help. The journey continued, and Jake Morrison was ready for whatever came next. Because he was not just a cargo hauler anymore. He was not just a rebel who had defied the Covenant. He was a guardian, and the lost would always have someone watching over them. Ted it to be. I'll keep it safe, Jake decided. And when the time is right, when the galaxy is ready for this truth, I'll make sure it comes to light, but not yet. People need time to heal first. Soren smiled, his skin glowing with approval. You are truly worthy of the title we gave you. Guardian of the Lost. May your path always lead toward light. As night fell on Varen Prime, Jake stood with his friends, watching the planet's forests glow with bioluminescent beauty. He had started this journey as a simple cargo hauler, trying to help a scared child. He had become something more, something the galaxy needed. The Covenant was broken but not destroyed. There would be more challenges ahead, more battles to fight. But Jake was ready. He had learned that one person standing up could inspire others to do the same. He had learned that protecting the innocent was worth any cost. And he had learned that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with the simplest choice, to help someone in need. This. They fought, and it was brutal. Vareth was stronger, faster, and more skilled. Jake used every trick he knew. But it was not enough. He was losing badly. Then, through his connection with Kira, Jake felt something. The child was nearby and she was afraid. She had followed him instead of going with her father. Jake wanted to tell her to run, but he could not speak. Kira appeared at the end of the corridor. Her skin was glowing brighter than Jake had ever seen. She looked at Vareth, and Jake felt the surge of empathic energy that exploded from her. Vareth froze. His weapon clattered to the floor. Jake watched in amazement as the feared enforcer dropped to his knees, clutching his head. Kira was showing Vareth everything, every crime the Covenant had committed, every innocent life destroyed, every lie he had told himself to justify his actions. The emotional weight of it all crashed down on him at once, and even his enhanced systems could not protect him from the truth. "What have I done?" Vareth whispered. "What have I become?" Amy's voice came through Jake's earpiece. "Jake, jammers are down. Transmitting evidence now. We need to go, right now." Jake grabbed Kira's hand and ran. Behind them, Vareth remained on his knees, paralyzed by the weight of his own guilt and shame. Ing. But Jake thought about Kira's glowing face and the trust she had placed in him. He thought about her people trapped in that facility, being turned into weapons against their will. He thought about all the other species that would suffer if the Covenant's plan succeeded. Sometimes the right thing to do was also the hardest thing to do. Jake's mother had taught him that. And sometimes, one person standing up could inspire others to stand with them. "Let's plan this carefully," Jake said. "We only get one chance, and we need to make it count." The group gathered around the holographic display and began working out the details of their impossible mission. Jake looked at Kira, who was sitting quietly in the corner. She was watching both of them, and through their connection, Jake could feel her trust in him. She believed he would protect her. She had no one else. "I'm not giving her up," Jake said firmly. "There has to be a way to help her and her people." Ben sighed. "I was hoping you'd say that, because I found something else. There's a Covenant commander named Lisa Hayes who recently went off-grid. Rumor is she witnessed something that changed her mind about the organization. If we can find her, she might help us." Jake felt a spark of hope. "Where is she?" Last known location was the frontier station near the Kelvin sector. "But Jake, if you do this, there's no going back. The Covenant will brand you a terrorist. You'll be hunted for the rest of your life." Jake looked at Kira again. The child was depending on him. Her people were depending on him, even if they did not know it yet. And somewhere deep inside, Jake felt that this was what he was meant to do. Not hauling cargo, not running from his past, but standing up for someone who could not stand up for themselves. "Then I guess I'm a terrorist," Jake said. "Let's find this Commander Hayes." As Jake turned to leave, he felt a gentle touch on his emotions. It was Kira, sending him a feeling of thanks. He smiled and nodded before closing the door. Back in the cockpit, Jake sat in his pilot's chair and stared at the controls. He had a feeling his life was about to get very complicated. But as he thought about Kira's frightened face and those marks on her arms, he knew he had made the right choice. Jake started the launch sequence and guided the Wanderer off the landing pad. As the ship climbed into the sky, he set a course away from Helios 7. He did not know where they were going yet, but he knew they needed to leave before anyone came looking for Kira. The stars stretched out before them, and Jake felt the weight of his decision settle on his shoulders. He was now responsible for this alien child, and he had no idea what dangers lay ahead.